I had no idea that it was him. And man, that was a good plot twist. Hello everybody, today I am going to be talking about The Well of Ascension. I had so much fun reading this book. I think I actually probably like it more than the first book. There was a lot of political intrigue and I love that kind of stuff. I love being able to see the inner workings of people's minds and how they work and watch the character development as they learn how to basically run a kingdom. And that's where we are in this book. I will have spoilers in here for both this book and Mistborn. So if you haven't read Mistborn or this book, I wouldn't suggest watching this one just yet. There will be spoilers for Mistborn because this is the second book, so there's no way I can talk about it without spoiling a little bit about the first book. And then I'm just going to go ahead and make this one a spoiler review as well because I just don't want to hold back. I want to be able to talk openly, so I'm going to just say if you haven't read this one, there will be spoilers, and I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, so come back after you have read this book and let's talk about it. This book takes place after Vin has defeated the Lord Ruler. Elend has been appointed king, and they are trying to figure out how to run this kingdom, keep all of the citizens safe, and there's a siege going on by 3 different people and 3 different armies, and there's other factors that are in play. There's a new Mistborn that's in here. There are new enemies in here. There's a spy in the midst, and we have to figure everything out. I honestly enjoyed this book so much. There was so much going on. Honestly, there's no way for me to be able to sit here and give a brief enough summary that fits everything in it, because there really is. It's just one thing after another just happens. So I'm just going to get into it and start talking about the things that I didn't like in here. One thing I did not like was that they basically killed off one of the only strong women in the series. I haven't read the 3rd book, so I don't know if there's any other women that come in and do anything, but I hate that they killed off Tyndall because she was such a strong mother figure and so strong and independent, and she voiced her concerns, and she was there to push Elend because he needed to be pushed, because he didn't know how to be a king, and she helped him learn to be a king. She helped him realize that being an idealist and being a scholar isn't the same thing as being a king. And while these are all fine and dandy in places of peace and fruitfulness, when we're in a war, you need to be a king. You need to be a commander. And he wasn't understanding that, and she was pushing, and she confronted him in several areas. And from the reviews that I've seen, some people didn't really care for her and the way she was very confrontational, but I enjoyed that aspect of her. She was very much needed in here to help push not just Elend, but Vin also. She wasn't as confrontational with Vin, but she was there showing Vin that it is okay to be both. But if she doesn't feel like she can be both, she needs to figure out which one she's going to be. And she wasn't ever unkind to Vin, but she was honest. And I liked that. She was such a good mother figure, and I really, really disliked that they killed her off. I understand that she was killed off because something needed to break with Sazed to get him away from his strict keeper upbringing. However, I hated that one of the only strong women in here was taken away. And now you're left with only Vin and this other woman that we don't even know a whole lot about. She may come have character growth or development in the third book, but as of right now, the only thing we know is that she's a soother and she and Breeze like each other, and that's pretty much it. She's also Set's daughter. That's pretty much it. I can't remember her name though. I just can't. She wasn't that prominent in there, so her name just kind of left. I did not like that aspect. I wish there were more stronger women in here. I know it's a war and conquering book, but if you can have a strong woman in it, do more than just one. Put several. That way there's a good counterpart for the men as well. So when one man dies or one woman dies, there's still someone there that's their counterpart. You know, I don't know. Not my book, so can't really. Plus this is an older book, so I don't even know how the next book goes. I just really, really hate that Tindril died. I thought she was such a good asset to the team, and plus I didn't like Sazed losing his love interest, because Sazed is one of my favorite characters, and watching him find her, it was just heartbreaking. The second thing I did not like Straff. Didn't like him. Good villain, absolutely good villain, but I did not like the way he treated women. I did not like the way he treated people in general, his children. Even, it's just, he was disgusting. Very good villain. Very good villain. I can't stand him though. And I was so glad that, you know, I really enjoyed the scene when Vin cut him down. That was just one of those things where I'm like, haha, you got what was coming to you. Then a second thing I didn't really care for was the whole Zane aspect. I felt like there was a lot to be desired with Zane. There could have been more there. I just felt like the only reason he was there was to confuse Vin, and that was it. And then he was killed off when he couldn't confuse her anymore. And I don't know. I just felt like that there was more to be desired in that aspect, and it felt kind of bland. I know that I don't really believe that he's actually dead though. My theory for every book, movie, TV show is if there's no body, they're not dead. So nobody said anything about getting his body and burying it or anything. So I don't believe he's dead. I just don't. Plus, I think at one point they said something about a spear or spike thing being in his chest. I don't know. So we'll see how that one goes in the next book, if he's actually dead or if there's something to the little spike thing that's in his chest, or if I'm just imagining the spike thing being in his chest. It may be my imagination. I can't really remember. I'm gonna have to go back and find it in the book. However, I really don't think Zane is dead, and I really feel like I wanted more out of his character. I wanted them to actually give him more of a personality other than he was misborn and he heard a voice in his head. We did find out that the voice was the spirit thing that was in the Well of Ascension, so we know that much. However, I would like to know why it came to him. I would have liked to know when exactly it did, why, you know, all these questions. It's just so many questions still revolving around Zane that nothing was really cleared up, and now he's dead. I wanted more with that. I still think he's not dead though, so now that's it for the things I did not like. On to things that I did like. Now, there are a lot of things that I liked about this. I really enjoyed the political intrigue. Watching Elend fail, and because he was not a very good king, and he was realizing that he wasn't a good king, and even doubting himself and second guessing himself and running himself ragged, trying to figure out how to give the people power but also maintain his kingship, and it just didn't work. They ended up voting him out, and it was good that he failed. It gave him that failure and made him learn. It taught him things, and I liked that. It helped with his character growth. It showed him how to do things. It actually showed him that Tyndall was right. He should have mustered the army and got everybody in line instead of allowing them to kick him out of the throne. And it was just, I just enjoyed it. The political intrigue in it. I know a lot of people don't care for it a whole lot, but I did. I enjoy learning how people think and watching them go through it and try and piece together things and realizing that they were wrong here and they were right here. It was good. I enjoyed this part so much. I loved watching Ellen go and I enjoyed watching Ellen go to the Treaty Alliance meeting with his father, thinking that he was just going to act the same or pretend like he was the same weak and submissive person, and then him realizing that he went about it completely all wrong, and he shifted gears immediately and dominated his father, and it completely freaked him out, and I loved that. Then you have when he meets with Jastes, and he basically is like, what the heck, dude, what are you doing? We both used to sit down and talk about how we were going to better Luthadel, and here you are mustering this Koloss army to come in and basically kill the entire city. What the heck are you doing? And then he just gives some weak excuse that he wants power, pretty much. And then while he's leaving, he decides that he wants to know what's in the pouches, so he goes and he slaughters one of the smaller Koloss. He has a little trouble, but he kills one of the smaller Koloss. And the funniest part, though, is just all the Koloss pause and look at him. He's like, he killed my horse, and they're just like, okay, cool, all right. I liked it. It showed so much growth with him. And then when he confronts Jastes again, when they are headed north when Sazed tricked them, saying that the Well of Ascension is in the north, he confronts Jastes again and ends up just slicing off his head, and it was good. The character growth in Ellen was so good. I know Vin didn't like the character growth because she fell in love with the scholar and the idealist, but it was his growth was so good, because even inside his head, whenever he was talking, you can see him going back and forth between himself. You can see him going back and forth where he's saying, I am still the scholar and the idealist, but this was necessary. This is necessary. And the growth and watching him come into himself and realize what it takes to be a king is more than ideas and more than just being a scholar. And while that's all fine and dandy, and he enjoys that aspect and would like to one day incorporate that in the situation they're in, he needs to be king, not scholar, not idealist. And it was good. His character growth is amazing, and I loved it. Then you have Vin and her character growth. Her character growth was so great. You see her, it wasn't as good as Ellen's, though, I will say that. She is doubting herself a lot, just as she did in the first one, but this one was in a different way. Whereas the first one was, she was doubting herself with trusting people. here is where she's doubting herself with trusting herself and where she belongs and who she is. She's trying to figure out how she can fit together the love interest for Elend and Mistborn Vin, and she cannot figure out how to do it. And even Tindwell is like, you're gonna have to figure it out. And eventually she does realize that even though she is a Mistborn, and Mistborn are basically the knives of everything, but she is still Vin, and she is the knife for the people she loves and cares for. And she's okay with that. And she's not the knife just to go out and kill people. And watching her discover that was so great. You even see Vin when she goes to the Well of Ascension, and she's having to go through the choice of saving the Empire versus saving Elend. She looks at Elend and realizes Elend doesn't want her to save him. He wants her to save the Empire. And so she releases the power, and then they realize the mistake. And the growth in her is so good in here. And I'm hoping that in the next book, because of her releasing the whatever spirit thing that's in the well, that it doesn't cause her to start doubting herself and who she is anymore, because she had such growth and she finally realized who she was. She finally realized she can love Elend, and she can be Mistborn, and she can do the things she needs to as a Mistborn and still love her friends and be with her friends. There's also a lot of character growth in Sazed, and we watch him go, actually, I wouldn't say it's really character growth, because he does have growth, but then he has a setback and a little bit of a deconstruction, I guess you could say. When he loses Tindwell, that's absolutely devastating, because Sazed is one of my favorite characters, and for him to finally get his love there, and even though he's a eunuch, he feels less than a man, and then to finally realize that this person does love me and I can love her even though I am a eunuch. And then she dies. When Tindwell dies and he finds her, that broke my heart so much, and I hated that for him. And then you see him start to question himself and who he is. He starts to question his whole life's work and everything, and it just breaks my heart. And I hate that for him so much. And so to see him go there, and even to see his fighting where I didn't even think he was that strong. He didn't even realize he was that strong until he actually did it. It was really amazing watching him fight and then not give up. Even after hearing that Tindwell's gate had fallen, he didn't give up. His main goal was to save it, or to keep his gate safe, and eventually go out and find Tindwell and save Tindwell. And it just, once he realized that she was probably dead, it was devastating. Another thing that I really enjoyed was the relationship between Orsier, or Tensoon, and Vin. Between the two of them, you watch them go from not really liking each other at all to slowly realizing that even though they are different species, they have both been through very similar things, and they come to lean on each other and trust each other, even to the point to where Tensoon ends up betraying his contract, even though he knows that it will basically be the end of him, and betraying Zane and hinting to Vin on how to defeat Zane. That relationship right there was one of my favorites. I enjoyed any time they were in there talking to each other. It was one of my favorite parts of the book. I did not have any kind of inkling that he was the actual spy. It threw me for a loop completely. I thought it was either Dachshund or Demu, and then I ruled Dachshund out once I realized that Breeze was soothing his emotions during one fight. And so I was like, okay, well, it's not Dachshund, so it's probably Demu, even though Vin ruled him out. I don't know, it could still be him. And I don't know. At that point, I had no idea who it could be. I thought it could possibly be the young woman that was Breeze's love interest. I cannot remember her name for the life of me, but I thought it could possibly be her, and she was kind of like floating sides. Even Straff said that he and Set had a sort of treaty going on. It was said that it was a bluff, but we didn't really know. So I was wondering if she was kind of relaying information to everybody, but it wasn't. It ended up being Tensoon, and I had no idea that it was him. And man, that was a good plot twist. Another thing that I really liked was watching Tindwyl and Sazed go through the prophecy and sit there and talk about it, talk about the inconsistencies and how all of it was going on, and how this prophecy said that the Hero of Ages is going to be small, and this one said he's going to be tall. And then also Tindwyl was like, isn't it convenient, just so convenient that you're here with the Hero of Ages too? It's just way too convenient. And even Sazed is like, yeah, you're right, but I still think it's Vin. And I just enjoyed watching it. And then you also see that the pieces are torn off, and it's always the same line on the same page, and you're trying to figure it out, and then you realize that it's really this being thing, spirit that's in the Well of Ascension that is causing the whole prophecies to change and flow and move to fit his agenda and who he wants it to be. And it is just, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed watching it and watching the breadcrumbs and following them, and to me it was a lot of fun. I know a lot of people didn't care for that aspect. They saw it as just everything that I learned was a lie, and it wasn't, because there was foreshadowing all throughout the book. We just didn't catch it until the end. So those are the things that I liked. I think that's everything. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. I enjoyed all those aspects. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. I honestly think I enjoyed this one more than the first one, and I'm excited to get started on the next book. I will say one thing. I didn't like how I'm not so certain I care for the fact that Ellen is now a Mistborn also, because it's kind of like, well, what's the point of having Vin then if he's now a Mistborn? So both of them are Mistborn now, and so we'll see how it goes in the next book, and if any contention arises because of that. I'm interested. It's looking more and more like I'm going to enjoy this book. As long as they don't kill off any of my favorite characters, I think I'll be okay. I had a hard time with the death of Clubs because he was like the grumpy grandpa, and I enjoyed watching Breeze's and his relationship grow. The death of Dachshund was also very sad, but I can understand why he was killed off there. It was explained several times that he was after Kelsier died, he was basically just a shell of himself, and he was having a hard time grasping that because of all of the killings that he and Kelsier did, that he was also like the nobles as well, and he was having a hard time coming to grips with the fact that what he did was wrong, and not killing off all of the nobles. He even said this whenever he died, not killing all of the nobles was a good thing, because if they did, that would have made them even just as much a monster as all the nobles and the Lord Ruler. And that's when he died, and I'm glad that they had all of that cleared up. I was still so sad because he was one of my favorite characters in the first book. Also, I enjoyed watching he and Ben's relationship in there. I don't know, I just really like all of the crew, honestly, and I don't want to see any of them die, but you know it's going to happen. I'm glad Hammond lived, though, because he has a family, and I was so worried that he was going to die because he has a family, and I didn't want his family to be without their husband and father, and I'm really glad that he lived. Okay, so that is all that I have, and I enjoyed this book so much. Let me know in the comments the things that you enjoyed and didn't enjoy. If you agree with anything that I've said or disagree, let me know. I want to talk about this book, and I'm excited to read the next one and talk to you all about the next one. I will see you all next time. Bye.